The Sunday school lesson for December the 11th, 2022 is entitled God's Promise to David, 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 4 through 16. Welcome, viewers and subscribers, to my channel, The Backstory. I am Audrey, and on this channel, you will become aware of what happened before each Sunday school lesson. The agenda is as follows. I will share the backstory, read the lesson text, and offer a brief lesson summary. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The backstory. Let's begin. About King David. The Bible gives us a great deal of information about King David in 1st and 2nd Samuel, Psalms, and 1st Chronicles. Despite his flaws, David is described as a man after God's own heart in 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 14 and Acts chapter 13 verse 22. David was far from perfect, but his faith and zeal made him the standard against which all Israel's future kings could be measured against. David was also the great grandson of Ruth and Boaz, as recorded in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 12. The Bible tells us that David was from the tribe of Judah. He was also from Bethlehem, Luke chapter 2, verse 4. David was anointed king by Samuel in Bethlehem, according to 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. King David was a musician, a giant slayer, and a great warrior. David, Israel's greatest king, won numerous battles, made Israel a nation, expanded its territory, increased its military might, pointed his people to God, and wrote about half the book of Psalms. 2 Samuel 7, verses 1 through 3. After the king was settled in his palace, and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, he said to Nathan the prophet, "Here I am, living in a house of cedar, while the ark of God remains in a tent." Nathan replied to the king, "Whatever you have in mind, go ahead and do it, for the Lord is with you." Today's Sunday school lesson begins with the next verse, which is verse 4. God's promise to David, 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 4 through 16. Time, about 1000 BC. Place, Jerusalem. Golden text. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 13. Verses 4 through 5. And it came to pass that night that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, Thus saith the Lord, Shalt thou build me an house for me to dwell in? Verse 6. Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. Verse 7. In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build ye not me an house of cedar? Verse 8. Now therefore, so shalt thou say unto my servant David, Thus said the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. Verse 9. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Verses 10 through 11. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies, also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee an house. Verse 12. And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Verse 13. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Verse 14. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. Verse 15. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. Verse 16. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. God had a message for David. Not only would his kingdom be successful, but his dynasty would also be eternal. Through the prophet Nathan, God established a covenant with David. He promised him greatness, stability for the Israelites, relief from their enemies, and an ongoing Davidic dynasty. He foretold that the temple would be built in Jerusalem. God promised that David's house, kingdom, and throne would be established forever. God's covenant with David is a major theme revisited repeatedly throughout the Old Testament. Not only did the Davidic line of kings continue to reign in Jerusalem without interruption for almost 400 years, but the prophets of Israel began to reveal that a future king would come from David's line to be the Redeemer of Israel, the Messiah. The New Testament reveals the promised Messiah's identity, Jesus, called the Son of David and King of Israel. Jesus himself was the fulfillment of this covenant, the promised heir to David's eternal throne. Thank you so much for watching. Join me soon for the next backstory. Stay safe.